Kobe, we'll start with you. What's your overall take on the 2024 Supercars schedule?
Well, I'm going to start at the top of the schedule, Ben. I think on a recent show, I think it was might have been Gold Coast or Bathurst. I already said at the beginning of the season, Bathurst 500. I don't like that at all. I feel like we should only be going to Bathurst one time a year because I know it's exciting going to Mount Panorama, starting the year off. They're at this iconic track. Anytime you get to race there, it's special. But I feel like that when you have a crown jewel race like the Bathurst 1000, it should only appear once. And when we should not be going there twice. But I understand that, this is basically a filler since the Newcastle 500 not returning in 2024. And you also mentioned some of the changes that we're going to see, such as 60-minute time races. I'll have to defer to Matt, but I'm not sure how long the races last under the old format. But seeing time races, that will certainly make things very interesting strategy-wise. And then look at the Super 400 format with just a couple of races instead of 3. And it might be a cost-saving measure. I totally understand if Supercars wants to cut down on the number of races we're doing per weekend. I know the Saturday race typically isn't a problem, but when you get to Sunday, they do 2 races. They'll have one race, take like a 2.5 hour break, and then we're back for the final race of the weekend. And sometimes in the first race on the Sunday, you'll see a driver get into trouble, damage the car, and then they're scrambling to try to make it to the second race. And I think if you cut out that one race, it would make it a lot easier on the teams and save them an extra bit of money. So if you tear up the car on Saturday, you can repair it overnight, have it ready to go for Sunday rather than tear it up on Sunday. And then we need to get the car at least drivable for the second race. And who knows how it will go. But yeah, looking at the schedule rundown, I don't really have any major complaints about the schedule. It's going to be interesting to see how these changes are going to look in 2024.
I do have some major complaints. I agree with you, Kobe. We should only be going to Bathurst once. We don't start the IndyCar season with the Indy 200 at the Brickyard. We don't do a 6-hour race at Le Mans, and we don't do a 6-hour race at Daytona for IMSA. It is a one-time thing. And you said, Newcastle's gone away, and this is the second time this has happened in recent memory where we've had to start at Bathurst. The last time was 21 off the back of some of the COVID stuff that was kind of enforced. There is a government signed deal with the New South Wales government that states that they have to have the opening round of the season in that state. So it is tricky for them, but this is what we're going to end up with. Although that week is going to be kind of cool with the 12-hour the weekend before and then rolling into the start of the Supercars season the weekend after. So that is going to be good. The Grand Prix support is going to be strange because, 5 or 6 years ago, they built that extra bit of the pit lane at the top of the pit straight for Supercars to use. And now they've been chucked out of that. And it's going to be used for the F2 and F3 teams going forward. And there's going to be no pit stops for the Supercar races. So that's going to mix up, unless they do some kind of funky tyre strategy where you have to use a certain number of softs and hard tyres and stuff. That's just going to make 4 pretty dull sprint races with minimal overtaking. Shame to see the Bend not on the calendar this coming year, although, as you mentioned, Bennett is coming back as probably going to be the warm-up to Bathurst, which does mean it looks like probably the last Sandown, which is a real shame. Been teetering on the edge for a while that Sandown would go away and they'd end up building houses on it. So that looks like the 60th anniversary might be the final one. Again, no place for the country tracks. Winton, Queensland Raceway, Phillip Island. No place for them. They go to Tasmania in the middle of winter. It is going to be. We're going to talk about Vegas being cold this weekend. It's going to be absolutely Arctic conditions at Simmons Plains in August. That's going to be that's going to frighten up some people. They'll be calling in sick for that weekend. I'm not going down there. It'll be far too cold. Good though that I do like the fact that we've gone away from, as you mentioned, Kobe, those 2 races on the Sunday. The first one of the 2, traditionally, on any of the weekends these last couple of years, has been the least watched race on television. People will tune in for the Saturday race and then they'll tune in for the Sunday race at the end of the day. And that builds trackside and watching on TV. That Sunday now will build. They might even throw a practice session in or a warm-up of some kind in the morning. Then we'll have qualifying at lunchtime and then the race later on in the afternoon. It kind of builds the day without having that middle day race in there. The time thing, I think it was Conor O'Brien on the V8 Sleuth website did a story over the weekend about this year's races against timed. we're actually going to get more racing over those sprint races, being that it's 60 minutes. A lot of them have come in at 45, 50 minutes, so we are going to get a lap or two here or there. But that could make all the difference in terms of championship and the race battles and such like. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I do kind of like them going back down to 2 races, although it's only for a few events. Good to see them going back to New Zealand, although that has been confirmed for some time. And as I've said for the last few years, and might have to say for the last time next year, Sandown, Bathurst, Gold Coast, Adelaide, just the perfect run-in to any championship on the planet. As I said, looks like it might be the final Sandown this year, so that's a shame. But all in all, mixed, but I do kind of like it. I just wish there was more than 12 rounds, because you race, you have storylines, and then they all flutter away, and then there's another race again, and then like NASCAR, we have it every week. IndyCar's kind of a couple or 3 weeks, but Supercars have got to get more races more of the time. I know we've got Olympics as well to deal with next summer. Everyone's trying to avoid, so that's tricky. Hi to Demas, who's watching in. It's just going to be, I can't wait for it. Also, can't wait for Adelaide next weekend to see who wins this year's championship.